Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level Headed News. I'm your host, Brenda. I've got two articles to bring to you in this broadcast. The first one is about 10 American foods that are banned in other countries. You've been wondering what you have been eating. I'll tell you, you're going to be shocked when you find out here. Americans are slowly waking up to the sad fact that much of the food sold in the U.S. is far inferior to the same food sold in other nations. In fact, many of the foods you eat are banned in other countries. Here, I'll review 10 American foods that are banned elsewhere, which were featured in a recent MSN article. Seeing how the overall health of Americans is so much lower than other industrialized countries, you can't help but wonder whether toxic foods such as these might play a role in our skyrocketing disease rates. The first one is farm-raised salmon. If you want to maximize health benefits from fish, you want to steer clear of farm-raised fish, particularly farm salmon fed dangerous chemicals. Wild salmon gets its bright pinkish red color from natural carotenoids in their diet. Farm salmon, on the other hand, are raised on wholly unnatural diet of grains, including genetically engineered varieties, plus a concoction of antibiotics and other drugs and chemicals not shown to be safe for humans. This diet leaves the fish with unappetizing grayish flesh, so to compensate, they're fed synthetic astathin, I guess that is how that's pronounced. It's made from petrochemicals, which has not been approved for human consumption and has well-known toxicities. According to the featured article, some studies suggest it can potentially damage your eyesight. More details are available in yesterday's article. It is banned in Australia and New Zealand. How can you tell whether a salmon is wild or farm raised? The flesh of the wild sockeye salmon is bright red, courtesy of its natural ataxanthin content. It's also very lean, so the fat marks, those white stripes you see in the meat, are very thin. The fish is pale pink with wide fat marks. The salmon is farmed. Avoid Atlantic salmon, as typically salmon labeled Atlantic salmon currently comes from fish farms. The two designations you want to look for are Alaskan salmon and sockeye salmon. The Alaskan sockeye is not allowed to be farmed. Please realize that the vast majority of all salmon sold in restaurants is farm raised. So canned salmon labeled Alaskan salmon is good, or is a good bet. And if you find sockeye salmon, it's bound to be wild. Again, you can tell sockeye salmon from other salmon by its color. Its flesh is bright red opposed to pink, courtesy of its superior antitaxin content. Sockeye salmon actually has one of the highest concentrations as taxanthin of any food. The second one is genetically engineered papayas. Most Hawaiian papaya is now genetically engineered to be resistant to ring spot virus. Mounting research now shows that animals fed genetically engineered foods such as corn and soy suffer wide ranges of maladies, including intestinal damage, multiple organ damage, massive tumors, birth defects, premature death, and near complete sterility by the third generation of offspring. Unfortunately, the gigantic human lab experiment is only about 10 years old, so we're likely to decades away from tabulating the human casualties. This is banned in the European Union. Unfortunately, it's clear that the U.S. government is not in a position to make reasonable and responsible decisions related to genetically engineered foods at this point, when you consider the fact that the Obama administration has placed former Monsanto attorney and Vice President Michael Taylor in charge of U.S. food safety. And serious conflicts of interest even reign supreme with the U.S. Supreme Court. That's right, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is a former Monsanto attorney, but refuses to acknowledge any conflict of interest. The third one is receptaphine tainted meat. The beta, and try that again. The beta agonist drug rotopamine is It's a repartitioning agent that increases protein synthesis. Was recruited for livestock when researchers found that the drug used in asthma made mice more muscular. This reduces the overall fat content of the meat. It's hard for me to pronounce these silly words. Ractopamine is currently used in about 45% of U.S. pigs, 30% ration-fed cattle, and an unknown percentage of turkeys are pumped full of this drug in the days leading up to slaughter. Up to 20% of ractopamine remains in the meat you buy from the supermarket, according to veterinarian Michael W. Fox. Since 1998, more than 1,700 people have been poisoned from eating pigs fed the drug, and ractopamine is banned from use in food and animals in no less than 160 different countries due to its harmful health effects. Effective February 11, 2013, Russia issued a ban on U.S. meat imports, slated to last until the U.S. agrees to certify that the meat is ractopamine free. At present, the U.S. does not even test for the presence of this drug in meat sold. In animals, ractopamine is linked to reductions in reproductive function, increase of mastitis in dairy herds, and increased death and disability. It is also known to affect the human cardiovascular system and is thought to be responsible for hyperactivity and may cause chromosomal abnormalities and behavioral changes. It is banned in 160 countries across Europe, Russia, mainland China, and the Republic of China, Taiwan. Number 4 is flame retardant drinks. If you live in the U.S. and drink Mountain Dew and some other citrus flavored sodas in sports drinks, then you are also getting a dose of synthetic chemical called brominated vegetable oil, or BVO, which was originally patented by chemical companies as a flame retardant. BVO has been shown to bioaccumulate in human tissue and breast milk, and animal studies have found it causes reproductive and behavioral problems in large doses. Bromine is a central nervous system depressant and common endocrine disruptor. It's part of the halide family, a group of elements that include fluoride, chlorine, and iodine. When ingested, bromine competes for the same receptors that are used to capture iodine. This can lead to iodine deficiency, which can have a very serious detrimental impact on your health. Bromine toxicity can manifest as skin rashes, acne, loss of appetite, fatigue, and cardiac arrhythmias, according to the federal article. The FDA has flip-flopped on BVO's safety, originally classifying it as generally recognized as safe, but reversing that call, now defining it as an interim food additive, a category reserved for possibly questionable substances used in food. It is banned in Europe and Japan. Processed foods containing artificial food colors and dyes. More than 3,000 food additives, preservatives, flavorings, colors, and other ingredients are added to U.S. foods, including infant foods and foods targeted to young children. Meanwhile, many of these are banned in other countries based on research showing toxicity and hazardous health effects, especially with respect to adverse effects on children's behavior. For example, as reported in the featured article, boxed mac and cheese cheddar flavored crackers, Jell-O, and many kids cereals contain red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, and or blue 2. The most popularly used dyes in the United States. Research has shown this rainbow of additives can cause behavioral problems as well as cancer, birth defects, and other health problems in laboratory animals. Red 40 and yellow 6 are also suspected of causing an allergy-like hypersensitivity reaction in children. The Center for Science in the Public Interest reports that some dyes are also contaminated with known carcinogens. In countries where these food colors and dyes are banned, food companies like Kraft employs natural colorants instead, such as paprika extract, beetroot, and annatto. The food blogger and activist Vanny Harry, better known as Food Babe, recently launched a change.org petition asking Kraft to remove artificial dyes from American mac and cheese to protect American children from the well-known dangers of these dyes. Where it's banned, Norway and Austria. In 2009, the British government advised companies to stop using food dyes by the end of that year. The European Union also requires a warning notice on most food containing dyes. Number 6, arsenic-laced chicken. Arsenic-based drugs are approved for use in animal feed in the U.S. because they make animals grow quicker and make the meat appear pinker or fresher looking. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has stated these products are safe because they contain organic arsenic, which is less toxic than other inorganic form, which is known as carcinogen. The problem is scientific reports surfaced stating that the organic arsenic could transform into inorganic arsenic, which has been found in elevated levels in supermarket chickens. The inorganic arsenic also contaminates manure, where it can eventually migrate into drinking water and may also be causing health, or try that again, may also be causing heightened arsenic levels in U.S. rice. In 2011, Pfizer announced it would voluntarily stop marketing its arsenic-based feed additive, Roxarsone, but there are still several others on the market. Several environmental groups have filed a lawsuit, but against the against the FDA, calling for their removal from the market. The European Union, meanwhile, arsenic-based compounds have never been approved as safe for animal feed. European Union. Number 7, bread with potassium bromate. You might not be aware of this, but nearly every time you eat bread in a restaurant or consume a hamburger or a hot dog bun, you're consuming bromide. It is commonly used in flours. The use of potassium bromide as an additive to commercial breads and baked goods has been a huge contributor to bromide overload in Western cultures. Bromated flour is enriched with potassium bromide. Commercial baking companies claim it makes the dough more elastic and better able to stand up to bread hooks. However, Pepperidge Farm and other successful companies manage to use only unbromated flour without any of these so-called structural problems. Studies have linked potassium bromide to kidney and nervous system damage, thyroid problems, gastrointestinal discomfort, and cancer. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies potassium bromate as a possible carcinogen. Where it's banned, Canada, China, and the EU. Number 8, or try that again, olestra / olein. Olestra, aka olein, created by Procter & Gamble, is a calorie and cholesterol-free fat substitute used in fat-free snacks like chips and French fries. 3 years ago, Time magazine named it one of the worst 50 inventions ever, but that hasn't stopped food companies from using it to satisfy people's mistaken belief that fat-free snack is a healthier snack, according to the featured article. Not only did a 2011 study from Purdue University conclude that rats fed potato chips made with olein gained weight, there have been several reports of adverse intestinal reactions to fake fat, including diarrhea, cramps, and leaky bowels. And because it interferes with the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins such as A, D, E, and K, the FDA requires these vitamins be added to any product made with olein or olestra. Where it's banned, UK and Canada. Number 9, preservatives BHA and BHT. BHA, I'm going to try to pronounce this. It's butylated hydrogenosol, I guess. And BHT is butylated hydroxytolene. I think I'm close, are commonly used and are commonly used preservatives that can be found in breakfast cereal, nut mixes, chewing gum, butter spread, meat, dehydrated potatoes, and beer, just to name a few. BHA is known to cause cancer in rats and may be cancer-causing agent in humans as well. In fact, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, National Toxicology Program's 2011 report on carcinogens, BHA is reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. Allergic reactions and hyperactivity, while BHT can cause organ system toxicity. Where it's banned, the UK doesn't allow BHA in infant foods. BHA and BHT are also banned in parts of the European Union and Japan. The 10th one, milk and dairy products laced with RBGH. Recombinant bovine growth hormone, RBGH, is the largest selling dairy animal drug in America. RBGH is a synthetic version of natural bovine somatrophin, somatropin, otherwise known as BST, a hormone produced in cows' pituitary glands. Monsanto developed the recombinant version from genetically engineered E. coli bacteria and markets it under the brand name Posilac. Posilac. That's Posilac. Posilac. It's injected into cows to increase milk production, but it's banned in at least 30 other nations because it's dangerous to human health, which includes an increased risk for colorectal, prostate, and breast cancer by promoting conversion of normal tissue cells into cancerous ones. Non-organic dairy farms frequently have RBGH injected cows that suffer at least 16 different adverse health conditions, including very high rates of mastitis that contaminate milk with pus and antibiotics. According to the American Cancer Society, the increased use of antibiotics to treat this type of RBGH-induced inflammation does promote the development of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, but the extent to which these are transmitted to humans is unclear, the featured article states. Many have tried to inform the public of the risk of using the hormone in dairy cows, but their attempts have been met with overwhelming opposition by the powerful dairy and pharmaceutical industries and their government liaisons. In 1997, two Fox affiliate investigative journalists, Jane Aker and Steve Wilson, attempted to air a program exposing the truth about dangers of RBGH. Lawyers for Monsanto, a major advertiser with Florida Network, sent letters promising dire consequences if the story aired. Despite decades of evidence about the dangers of RBGH, the FDA still maintains it's safe for human consumption and ignores scientific evidence to the contrary. The United Nations Safety Agency ruled unanimously not to endorse or set safety standards for RBGH milk, which has effectively resulted in an international ban on U.S. milk. The Cancer Prevention Coalition, trying for years to get the use of RBGH by the dairy industry banned, resubmitted a petition to the FDA Commissioner Margaret Hamburg, MD, in January of 2010. Although the FDA stubbornly sticks to its position that milk from RBGH-treated cows is no different than milk from untreated cows, this is just plain false and not supported by science. The only way to avoid RBGH is to look for products labeled as RBGH-free or no RBGH. Where it's banned, Finland, Israel, EU, and Canada. So there's that article. The next one I have for you, I did one this morning on Kellogg's and all of their GMO products. Here's a follow-up to that. This is off of Natural News, and it says Kellogg's found to have financial ties to the money man for cop-killing left-wing hate groups, George Soros. Kellogg's found to have financial ties to the money man for cop-killing left-wing hate groups, George Soros, naturalnews.com. When you buy Kellogg's products, you may be funneling money into the kind of hate-based operations associated with people who advocate killing cops in America. A Breitbart.com investigation found that W.K. Kellogg Foundation has partnered with and given major donations to George Soros, Open Society Institute, and the Tide Center as part of its massive push to promote a far-left agenda. George Soros, often described as an international terrorism money man, is a key funding source for numerous radical left-wing anti-American groups such as Black Lives Matter, which openly advocates executing police officers. And there's a video in this that you can take a look at. It says the video below is for proof of that statement. Soros funded the Ferguson protest movement after the death of Michael Brown on TV and on the streets. The liberal billionaire forged a political machine that impacts American politics and policy and mobilizes protest groups to spread hate propaganda across the U.S. Through years of funding, Soros injected more than $30 million to embolden on-the-ground activists in Ferguson and also gave rise to the combustible protest movement after the criminal event in Missouri. Kellogg's helping fund anti-cop, anti-white groups rooted in racial hatred. All across America's society, George Soros is funding racial division, hatred, and social unrest. Apparently, Kellogg's thinks this is all just dandy because they're giving money to George Soros organizations like Open Society Institute and the Tide Center. This means that buying Pop-Tarts is an act of racial hatred. That plays right into the hands of the truly evil globalists like Soros. The racial hatred division and anti-white racism that's funded by Kellogg's is, of course, described as racial justice, as Breitbart explains. After W.K. Kellogg Foundation grant in 2016 gave over $380,000 to Tides in order to provide updated publication tools describing the state of grant making with a racial equity, racial justice lens, including insights to support grant making considerations at the program officer and institutional levels through support of the philanthropic initiative for racial equity. Racial justice, of course, means executing white cops. To the radical left, that's funded by George Soros and Kellogg's. That's why you get Black Lives Matter protesters chanting violent threats against police, such as pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon. Kellogg's found to have financial ties to the money man for cop-killing left-wing hate groups, George Soros, naturalnews.com. Stop the hate, boycott all Kellogg's brands and products. When you purchase Kellogg's products, which include Kashi, Pop-Tarts, Mueslix, Raisin Bran, Smart Start, and All Brand, you are financially supporting hate in America via George Soros racial justice groups that call for open killing of law enforcement officers. Keep that in mind the next time you're shopping. And if that's not reason enough, just realize that Kellogg's products also contain GMOs, glyphosate, pesticides, corn syrup, and other junk ingredients linked to chronic diseases. And that if you want to learn more, you can always go to #boycott Kellogg's for more information.